We're going to talk about some of the things going on in and around the world, especially in Hollywood right now. If you've been following the news, which I know some of you definitely do and others are adamantly against, SAG-AFTRA, which is the union of the Screen Actors Guild, along with the Writers Union or the Writers Guild in Hollywood, are both striking at the same time now. And this is, I want to say, the first time in over 4 decades that they've both been on strike simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
So this is big. I mean, Hollywood is basically shut down. And it's not because of COVID this time. This was by choice. Both of these, establishments or organizations just really fed up with the situation. And obviously, a lot has changed in Hollywood. A lot has changed in the world, and it's changing very quickly. It's something I think we referenced quite a bit on this podcast, and it's difficult to keep up, but at some point I think everybody's going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how their industry moves forward in this new world of, in this new digital world.
Yeah, lawyers are going to have to do some work.
For sure. And obviously a big part of the issue right now is the streaming services, right? Residuals, what's owed, how are people compensated for, not just the work that they're doing right now, but the work that they've already done as it bounces from, Hulu to Netflix to Disney Plus to Max to Apple TV.
A lot of them aren't paying for it and are dropping the shows. They run the shows for a little while and then they drop them when they get.
But regardless,
when they get asked.
I have to be honest though. I thought as a person who's followed Hollywood, who has worked in the entertainment industry for quite a long time at this point, I figured it was like network television. I was like, ooh, everybody got a syndication deal now with streaming. And it is the complete opposite because it's completely uncharted territory. There was no documentation in place with regards to
who gets paid
and how. There were no parameters set for the streaming world. So as network TV becomes less and less viable, right? There's less and less of those Friends type of syndication deals. I hate to use this as a reference point, but the Cosby syndication deals. I mean, look, even All in the Family, still in syndication.
Mm-hmm.
That was what really put Seinfeld on the map. Yes, it was a great show when it was on, and people obviously loved it, but it's got a cult following. And every time the man signed a new syndication deal, he basically made $250 million.
Yeah. Same with Friends.
Yeah. But that was something that they worked out. But the difference was Jerry was a writer on that show. Who's the other guy that wrote with him? Larry David. So the two of them were really, at the top of that food chain.
They made all the money.
And they made sure that the others obviously got
Writers,
fed.
Producers.
And they did. But when you're the guy writing the script, producing the show, acting in it, it's based on your life. Yeah, that check looks a little different for you. You know what I mean? Than it does for, say, Elaine or George Costanza. The Friends team collectively operated together. It's like they were their own little mini union, inside of SAG-AFTRA.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically agreed that they would all make the same pay and that none of them would sign if they all didn't make an equal amount. So they all got I think at the end, about $1 million an episode. And then they got a nice chunk when it went into syndication. But it's crazy because, Jerry Seinfeld is getting paid. I think Max has Friends right now. No, who has Seinfeld? Max has Friends for sure. And they got a check. They got a check for that. Because that's a get for these streaming services. There's certain shows that some people will, that if you weren't necessarily a Max subscriber, but now they've got Friends, you might go and spend the $12 a month or whatever it is because that's your show and you want to be able to see it and you can't get it anywhere else unless you go buy it on DVD.
I think some of those shows are probably going to, if they have to pay, if the streaming services have to pay, they're going to pass those charges over, just like Amazon. If you go to Amazon to buy to watch something and it costs $2,
but Lenny, this just feels very greedy to me on the part of the execs behind these streaming platforms. And I say that because, Netflix has now been around for quite a while.
I think HBO, Cinemax, and those stations have always paid residuals. I think the newer ones
But here's the deal: they pay for their original content. Like they never really had all these other shows. What you found on HBO was HBO's original programming.
Yeah,
so,
but like the movies, all of that stuff.
Okay,
They
yeah.
pay.
But I think that was all that was back ended from a long time ago. Again, when you start adding other films into, and those were deals that were worked out. I mean, these were all studios too. Let's be real, like Cinemax. Max, like these were all the original streaming services all spiraled off of actual studios. So they already owned the proprietary rights to a lot of these movies. You found HBO films on HBO, like Paramount Plus now has all of their Paramount films, and you forget, like, damn, they made, like, that's the mountains in the beginning, and it says Paramount, you know what I mean? Like, Tom Cruise clearly has a production deal with Paramount, because I remember I was on Prime, like, just the other day, and I was like, damn, they got The Firm, they've got A Few Good Men, they've got Top Gun, they've got Top Gun Maverick, they've got them all, but that's because he's got a production deal with them, very much like they used to have back in the old days of Hollywood, where actors would sign 7 and 10 picture deals at a time with a particular studio, and that studio owned them until they were done making that amount of pictures, right? But it feels really greedy to me because for all these years, I think, you know, as fans of cinema and fans of good television and great scripted shows, I just assumed that these folks were eating, right? I understood when COVID hit and everything shut down, oh, this isn't good, right? This is tough.
But I mean, really, how long has Netflix been around? 5 years?
No.
8 years?
Like at least 10, man.
Okay, 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's still in its infancy.
Yeah, but they have 300 million monthly subscribers.
I get it.
They're making billions every single month.
I get it. But if you break
they don't even
down,
and they have no brick and mortars. What is there aside from them making programming, which they do a great job of, and paying really big fat corporate executive, where is their overhead?
I get it. You're hating the corporations?
No. I'm just like, but pay the people. I want my TV shows. I pay a lot of money. I have every single one of these streaming services. I probably drop $150 a month on streaming services alone, right?
Yeah, but why? If everyone had the same stuff, you wouldn't. You'd only have one. That's the whole thing. Netflix gets this movie. You know, Hulu gets.
But I can buy it all on Prime.
Pretty much.
And that's the other thing too that I will say about some of these things. We're paying these monthly fees to these people, right? And this is probably a different conversation. But we don't own any of it. It's like we're leasing our favorite shows and our favorite movies, right? Whereas just a couple years ago, we would have gone to Best Buy or Amazon or wherever.
Or Blockbuster.
Well, no, you would have rented it. Like I've always been like a cinemaphile. Like I love the movies, so I've always had, you know, a VHS collection. I've always had a DVD.
200 DVDs right now.
I have 800. So yeah, like, and I have all the shows, and I get the special editions, and you know.
I used to go to Blockbuster and buy the used ones for $5.
Yeah. Yep. But we used to at least own them. Like, so what happens if you don't want to subscribe to Amazon Prime anymore? Now you don't own shit. So every $9.99, every $5.99, every $24.99 you dropped is gone, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? If I don't want to pay for Max anymore, or I can't afford to pay for Max anymore, there goes The Wire, there goes Game of Thrones, there goes Sex and the City, and Just Like That, and Friends. Like, and it's crazy because I feel like we live in this perpetual state of a renting now in 2023, right? Like our phones, most people don't buy their phone outright. And by the time you get to the end, it's like, okay, well, you give us $500 and we'll give you a brand new phone. So you're constantly paying for a phone, right?
Everything
is leased. Everything. We don't own shit. You don't own your music anymore. They've convinced us to buy Apple Music, Spotify, but instead of now having the DVD or the CD or the tape cassette, again, if I no longer want to spend $50, they can keep raising the rent.
Yeah, and people will keep paying.
Because we don't own anything anymore. So I got 1 million songs. Yeah, until you don't.